representing our constituency, the 1%.
Let's talk about language for a second, because you just said, well, there is no language to describe what's really going on. It's unprecedented in a lot of ways. But then again, you also mentioned we're going back to more feudalism, a feudalistic model. So it comes down to language in a lot of ways. In other words, they're rebottling old wine in new bottles, if I got that correctly. The concepts are kind of similar. It's about forcing debts onto people, and then you wrote about this recently, about fraudulent conveyance. Very key concept in all this. Speak about it.
I was in Germany making a talk at the INET convention in Berlin, and the idea of fraudulent conveyance basically is that if a creditor makes a loan to a debtor without knowing how that debtor can pay, the loan is declared null and void. Now this law goes back over 200 years to when America was still a group of colonies, and the state of New York had very rich farmland in upstate New York. And British creditors, Sharpies, used to come over here, and they would say, we want to get that farmland, what'll we do? They would make a loan to a farmer for the crops or whatever, and then they would call in the loan. Back then, before in the colonial times, you could call in a loan whenever you wanted. Just before the crop was in, they'd call in the loan. The farmer couldn't pay, and they'd say, okay, you default, we're taking your land. So New York passed the Fraudulent Conveyance law, saying that if a creditor, like a British Sharpie, makes a loan to a farmer without having any idea how the borrower can pay in the normal course of business, like after the crop is in, then the purpose of that loan was fraudulent. The purpose was to grab the property, and that loan is null and void. Now, that law is still on the books since New York became a part of the United States. And in the 1980s, that law became important during the corporate raiding movement, because companies that were raided, a raider would borrow the money to buy out the stockholders, buy the company, and the raiders would bid each other against each other to say who's going to borrow the most money, and the winner was whoever would pay all of the corporate cash flow to the banks, and they were hoping to come out with a capital gain by breaking up the company. Now, they call it breaking up the company. What they would do would be to seize the pension fund and pay off the creditor with a pension fund. They would do what Sam Zell recently did with the Chicago Tribune. And he bought a leveraged buyout of the Chicago Tribune, grabbed the employee's stock ownership plan, and then paid the creditors with the stock ownership plan, drove the Tribune into bankruptcy, and then told the employees, gee, I'm sorry, we're bankrupt, all of your your pensions and your savings are all wiped out. So the employees have brought a fraudulent conveyance suit against Sam Zell. It's still on the books, and I think this principle that loans should be brought into the ability to pay should be the principle that governs, say, Greeks' foreign debt, foreign government debt, the debt of all of Ireland, Iceland, all of these countries that now Europe is saying, pay or else. If you can't pay us, give us the Parthenon, give us your water and sewer system, give us your ports, give us your real estate. All of this under the fraudulent conveyance law, Greece would say, wait a minute, you lent us the money without having any idea how we can repay. The creditor has to bear some of the problem. You stiffed us, and you actually went to the government, and Goldman Sachs charged about $70 million to fake the balance sheets, to make it appear as if we could pay. This is a fraud. We are not going to pay. This is an odious debt. What are you going to do?